Hi everyone, thanks for coming over. I thought this would be fun for all of you that have been following along with some of my books, and I'm going to read my whole favorite book. Is called True Friends Are Heaven Sent, and it's about four of my dogs and all the adventures all over the place, from Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, tons of stuff in Alaska. And anyway, I'm going to start from the beginning, and there's 94 chapters, so I'm going to try to post a video once a week. I'll give you guys and girls, all a heads up on Facebook. Anyway, I'm just going to point the camera in a beautiful place like I was telling you about, and I'm going to read the prologue first and then probably one chapter, and see what you all thoughts are on me reading one of my favorite books to y'all. Okay, well, here we go. I'll point you out the front window. We're up on the top of the mountains, southeast Alaska. And bear with me, I'm not the best reader, but we're going to give it a try anyway. And hopefully the scenery is nice. So this is the prologue first, and then we're going to start on chapter 1, and it's called Scooby. And she was my first Labrador Retriever. So this is a book called True Friends Are Heaven Sent. This is a story about friends. True friends till death do we part. It is about good times and not so good times. One of the strongest words in the dictionary is commitment. I'm all choked up right now thinking and remembering all the best friends that I've had in my life. I'm sitting here writing this with my current best friend at my side. Friends come and go in the game of life, but true friends never go. They live on forever in your mind as your most wonderful lifelong experiences and the fond memories of good fortune you've had of spending time with the ones you cherish the very most. You know how some people look for their fortune in treasure and believe that one day they may find it, or it just might find them, kind of like spending a lifetime looking, believing, and searching endlessly for something you don't know with any certainty that you will ever find. Well, when I came across my treasure, I knew right away that they were priceless, never to be compromised or sold. You can't put a price on a lifelong friendship. Well, throughout my life, I've found many treasures. Some of my treasures have been golden in color, but not solid gold. These treasures are worth more to me than solid gold. They live, pump blood, get sick, laugh, cry, and have to work for a living, just like all the rest of us do. These very rare treasures have two brilliant eyes that sparkle more than the most expensive gems, and I know for sure that their hearts are stronger than any gold bar. I don't know for sure, but I don't believe there's a scale anywhere in the big world that could weigh their hearts. When you think of a good, true heart, they are a treasure chest all their own, filled with joy, despair, truthfulness, honesty, and the endless drive to please. If you start thinking about how to measure all these things, it's one hell of a big weight. Well, these treasures that I've stumbled across become lifelong friendships, which is the treasure of all treasures. My current friend is true blue. He sticks by my every decision. He disagrees a little bit, but he always seems to swing my way. Now, he isn't very big, and he doesn't have a mean bone in his body. He aims to please 110% of the time. He doesn't talk too much, but it seems he loves life to the fullest and has the greatest smile with big pearly white teeth. He is very proud hard worker with no problem giving you an honest day's work for an honest day's wage. Even though he doesn't make much money, he always pays his bills. He mostly trades his services for food, lodging, or a ride to go duck hunting or fishing. He has a seasonal job, mostly in the fall and winter, where at that time he is in high demand for his finely tuned skills in the field. He is a professional duck hunter by trade. He lives in an okay house and rides in a nice truck and boat. We are also fortunate to be able to ask for help. We can talk and communicate with each other. We can express our feelings, our thoughts, our needs. Can you even imagine not being able to tell the ones you love that you are not feeling well, or you don't want to do something, or that you do want to do something, but you have no way to communicate your needs and desires? Well, my best friends have dealt with that ever since they took their first breath. I'm specifically now thinking about one of my best friends who was very special. This best friend's name was Trooper. Trooper was born mentally retarded. Maybe that's part of why he was so special to me. I knew from the beginning that Trooper was going to need a lifetime of extra love and understanding. He needed a true best friend. I chose to be that best friend. Trooper was born to be the best that he could be. I was 12 years old when I started hunting waterfowl with Trooper's grandmother. Her name was Sand. Together we developed a lifelong love for the great sport of duck hunting. I have no doubt that hunting was Trooper's escape, his way to battle against his mental disability. When Trooper was hunting, he was all business. I doubt even the rich tycoons of the business world have a game face like Trooper. He gets so into the game and drops into a focused mindset. He becomes a superhero with all of his senses taking over his entire being. When he is out in the marsh, his ears perk up to hear every tiny sound, and his big wide open eyes scan the sky. His head is constantly on a swivel, not a whisper of wind going through a wing escapes his sharpened senses. No movement in the sky goes unnoticed. Often the birds would come in behind us, and never did I worry about a bird surprising us. I would get tired of looking up into the sky, but not Trooper. For hours on end he would watch and listen. I could kick back and just watch Trooper, knowing that he was more than capable, while I simply enjoyed the day, just best friends enjoying each other's company and not caring if we got a shot or not. I always brought us a big lunch, but I could have brought out 5-pound rare slab of prime rib with steam and the wonderful aroma drifting up from it. I'm confident that I could set it right in front of him, and Trooper wouldn't even notice. He would be so focused on scanning the sky as to not miss even the slightest movement. The special friends that I've had like Trooper have great big floppy ears, as Trooper had. Their big floppy ears are way better than mine for hearing things in the distance. My friend likes to go fast in the boat with ears flapping wildly in the wind. The same thing in the truck. My friend doesn't have a driver's license, so he rides shotgun with me, window down and his head out of the window, catching the wind in his hair and face. Before Trooper was born, I said earlier I knew his grandmother. I also knew his father. We were all great friends. Trooper's grandmother and his father both lived their whole lives with me, and I with them. And this is chapter 1. I'm going to read the first chapter, and this is about Trooper's. This is how the whole book starts, with Trooper's grandmother, and her real name was Sand, but I called her Scooby. So this is the first chapter, called Scooby. I met Sand when I was 12 years old. At the time that we first met, I was working for a man next door to where I lived at the time. I was scraping paint off an old historical house for this man. I was paid 50 cents an hour. Wow, how times have changed. Anyways, Sand was living there, so we started hanging out at lunchtime as well as before and after work. Well, before I knew it, we were finding out that we both had so much in common that we naturally hit it off and became friends. Sand wanted to move over to my place. So you have to understand in this book, y'all, that I really talk about the dogs as their almost human or best friends. Sand wanted to move over to my place, so I asked the man she was staying with if she could move in with me. Since Sand had 9 brothers and sisters living there as well, he was agreeable. The man said that he would take $200 cash to settle up any bills or back rent that Sand owed. Well, $200 is a lot of money for a 12-year-old making 50 cents an hour, I told him. I told him that I would see what I could come up with. He agreed to give me some time to figure it out. I confronted Sand to see if she had any money stashed anywhere, but she doesn't carry a handbag and doesn't have any pockets to store anything in. Well, we struck up a deal. I would work for the $200, but she would have to come to work with me and help in any way that she could. So I struck the deal and ended up scraping paint for the best part of the summer. Sand helped with everything she could, especially with eating the biggest part of my lunch. One day while we were eating a big lunch, she reminded me of the cartoon character Scooby-Doo, always reading and waiting always ready and waiting for food. The nickname stuck. Sand loved her nickname of Scooby. She ended up moving in with me, and you know, girls, she became the queen of the house. So that was a pretty quick chapter. So that was how I got Scooby. I had to scrape paint off an old historical house with a little hand blowtorch for the whole summer for 50 cents an hour. So that was a lot of scraping to do. So I'm going to read another chapter. That was pretty short. So this is chapter 2, and this is when me and Scooby-Doo go to work on the marsh. It's called A Job on the Marsh. Now, this was a duck hunting marsh off of the Great Salt Lake. For the next few years, Scooby and I grew up together. We were always together and did almost everything with each other. Since we spent most of our free time hunting, we became seasoned pros. Our instincts melded, and we become finely tuned out in the field, being successful in our hunting with getting home safely to our families. Scooby had this nose that was not of this world. She loved to find down birds and was accurate with her visual mark of where the bird went down after I shot. She knew if she could get close to where it crashed that her sniffer would lead to her prize, which she would bring right back to me and present the bird to our bag limit. She was like a finely tuned surgeon, except her main tool was her nose, and it would finally cut her a pathway to whatever she was looking for. Scooby and I fell in love with the outdoors. We had both come from good but broken up families. We came to the conclusion that we were both wanting not only to enjoy the outdoors together, but we were a good team when we worked together. We started working together out on the marshes of the Great Salt Lake, restoring old historical buildings and the interior of the marshlands that had been semi-destroyed by the great floods of 1983. Almost every building was lost, not only to the flooding saltwater, but also from the massive sheets of shifting ice that mowed over everything in their way. Dikes that were meant to contain and control the water throughout the marsh had been destroyed, along with the buildings. This job was right up our alley. We had worked on that historical house, so we did have the experience to bring to the table in that area. We both loved the marsh and hunting, so we definitely had the desire to learn how to care for the marsh that supported the wildlife and waterfowl. We were fast learners, hard workers, and honest. So we had landed the job with the Waterfowl Hunting Club, and we'd moved out to the marsh. The old Toyota Land Cruiser that I had was pretty beat up. It was one of those vehicles that you want to keep some cash in the jockey box for all the times when you break down in the middle of nowhere. Scooby and I moved into a small one-room cinder block structure located out on the marsh. Our new home had no bathroom and no running water. The room contained only a bed and an electric range that we used for heat and cooking our meals. We didn't have a TV, and back then cell phones and internet didn't exist. We raised chukar and pheasants inside our one-room home where it was warm and cozy. We often enjoyed watching the mice that ran around, providing us with hours of entertainment. This cinder block building was just on the edge of the marsh where we were going to be working. The marsh was so beautiful. It's one thing to spend a weekend or two on the marsh, but it's a different world when you live there full time. It's so full of life, from the smallest voles, chickadees, marsh wrens, all through the list of aquatics. There were fish, bugs, medium-sized shorebirds, many different species of ducks, geese, and old big long-legged sandhill cranes. There were black-crowned night herons and long-necked big tundra swans and pelicans. So many life forms that relied on the marsh for food and breeding to propagate their species. Besides the local plethora of life, there are visitors that rely on the marshland habitat. Migrating waterfowl all have different times of the year that they make their flight or their passageway through their final wintertime destinations, however far it might be. The Great Salt Lake boasts some of the world's finest hunting. I remember when we first moved to the marsh, all the sounds from all the species of creatures was almost too much. It was hard to sleep, but by the end of the summer living in the marsh, both Scooby and I agreed that the sounds became soothing It was like having a small stream running under your bed. The sounds were calming to our souls, like the sounds of moving water or waves hitting the beach with its faint sound. All of the marsh sounds became a big part of our day and gentle comfort at bedtime, almost better than a bedtime story, glass of milk, and a couple of cookies. So that is chapter 1 and 2, you all, and it starts out where I'm setting up the story in this book to about page 100, and then the adventures really take off. So anyway, that is up to chapter 3 on True Friends Are Heaven Sent, and I'll try to read about 2 to 4 chapters every time. Keep the videos probably right about 15 minutes. If you all want me to read more, I could bring the videos up to like a half an hour or longer if you'd like. But it's a pretty thick book, and I'll mark the spot, and then I will give you all a heads up on my Facebook page when I post a new story, and we'll just go right on through the book. The book gets really fun, y'all. It gets into a lot of adventures, a lot of really fun stuff, a lot of wild rivers of Alaska, and a lot of neat people from the world, and a lot of really fun stories. So anyway, I hope you follow along, and I really hope you like it. And I appreciate you coming over to the YouTube channel and supporting my little channel. All right, sending you a great big smile from here on top of the mountains in southeast Alaska, where I'm going to read one of my favorite books called True Friends Are Heaven Sent. Okay, you all have a super nice day, and I will talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye.